Can you explain what is a shaman?
A shaman is a ceremonial leader. A shaman is a healer. A shaman is something like a doctor for the Huichol people. A shaman performs weddings. A shaman takes people on outings or to sacred places of power. A shaman will bless the people at places of power, will bless the people at ceremonies, like for the harvesting of the crops or for planting the crops. And so this is the role of a shaman. In the Huichol language, their word is mara'akame, which means dear spirit person, becoming connected to your higher self, becoming connected to your intuition. So a shaman is one who is very revered in the Huichol society because he helps keep the culture together.
Now, can both men and women become a shaman in Huichol
Yes, that's
society?
a good point. Men and women are definitely shamans among the Huichol, which is fairly unusual.
Has it always been that way?
Yes, it's always been. Men and women can become shamans. Their roles are the same. Their apprenticeship is the same. You know, the way they learn to become a shaman is the same.
Well, you mentioned apprenticeship. So how does one study to become a shaman? How long does that take?
Well, the initial apprenticeship is 5 years. And during that time, you go to the places of power with your teacher. You go to different places. You go through different spiritual endeavors. And you learn the way of the Huichol people. And normally it's more than 5 years. Normally it's a 12-year apprenticeship.
So there's a short version or a
Yes,
beginner
could be.
phase to
Yeah,
that?
the first phase would be 5 years and then goes on from there.
Now, you mentioned that in that initial phase, people go to places of power. So they travel a lot to these places. What are these
Yeah,
places?
they walk
Oh,
to
they
most
walk.
of the places, to the different caves, rivers, mountains there in the Huichol Sierra are traveled to by the Huichol people, normally with a shaman leading them, but not always. You can go on your own. And then there's one sacred place that you have to, it's either a 2-week walk or you can, once you get out of the Huichol Sierra, you drive to the place. And that's the mountain where the sun was born. And that's also a sacred place.
So to become a shaman, one visits these sacred
Sacred
areas.
places. The ocean would also be considered a sacred place.
And then you said the role of a shaman is both in healing like a doctor, but also leading ceremonies.
Right.
So how does
And leading
Oh,
pilgrimages.
so okay, so going to the places of power
Right.
is another aspect.
Right. And the shaman gives a transmission of power to the people who are there with him or her at these places like the ocean or a lake or a mountain. And so this transmission of power ceremony is given by a shaman. So that's part of the role of shamans in the Huichol culture.
So the transmission of power, so when I visit a mountain or an ocean, the shaman brings me some goodness or some sacredness for
Right.
that area?
Power, what's called
Power.
kupuri in the Huichol language, which means energy, life force is the way we would translate it. And with this life force that people get, they can then learn to feel well. They can be happy. They can learn to feel a connection with nature, with the Great Spirit or with the Creator, just by getting life force or energy at these sacred places like the ocean or a mountain or a lake, etc.
So the role of a shaman then is to help people share in that energy when they go to a river or a lake or a beautiful
Right,
place of
right.
some kind.
It's a shaman's job. It's a shaman's job to take people to sacred places so that they can feel a connection to that place, like the ocean. You know, here in the modern world, for example, many people live by the ocean, but they might not feel connected to that ocean. And in Huichol shamanism, the shaman takes people to places like this so that they do feel a connection to nature or to this place like the ocean.
So when someone goes with a shaman on a pilgrimage or journey to a place of power like the ocean, that means that I can personally, that we can somehow connect better to the ocean in a way
Definitely.
that we bring that into our lives in a
Right.
stronger sense.
And then when the shaman is in there, you have your whole life to be at the ocean and be connected. Feel happy that you feel the ocean's energy, or you hear the sound of the ocean or the sound of a river, and you're able to integrate that into your everyday life of being connected to nature. And by feeling the energy, the power, or again, as I said, the kupuri, you feel connected, and you are connected to the kupuri of that place, because the ocean definitely has a lot of energy, and we know that here in the modern world, as well as the Huichols have known that for thousands of years.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing a little bit about what is a shaman and the role of a shaman.
Mhm.